Good afternoon. Well, happy Sunday. It's marvelous out today. It's in the 70s. Creeping towards those cold days yet to come 1 or 2 months from now. The talk today, the things that are on my mind are disconcerting. So I don't know if I have much happy news to talk about. Why don't we start with Sarah Palin up in Alaska trying to get elected. How dumb is my voter? How high is the sky who would support her? She's complaining about how they run the elections. And what it is, it's just a ranking system. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. When I was a kid, I think college, there was a place in New York, in Lower Manhattan, right near the City Hall, called the Citizens Union. And it was a good Google group, did good things, sought to have certain standards that would be fair and just to everybody. And one of them was a system called proportional representation. And since I spent a lot of time with math and my science undergraduate work, and so that appealed to me. And the way it worked is this. Say we have 3 candidates. I go to vote. I vote for my number 1 candidate, my number 2 candidate, and my number 3 candidate. In other words, I rank them. So if that's in, say, a primary often. So if number 1 doesn't get the highest vote, then we redistribute those votes for 2nd and 3rd to the other voters. And then we see who wins that. Now, that's a simple example. Now, what if we have 10 people? It still works out. And here's the theory. The theory is that instead of having a plurality vote, meaning there are 3 people and we don't know how in a close election that narrow vote would get cast, we have chosen the most popular candidate based on this ranking system. So you can't bring in extra candidates in order to cheat. Well, Sarah Palin's all against this system. She doesn't think they should do it this way. Well, I think we should do it this way everywhere, so that you can never game the system by putting in additional people, as we did in the national elections, who were put there to draw votes away from others. And so we have to be careful of that. Right here in the 10th Congressional District in Northern Virginia, there are 2 primary candidates, the incumbent Jennifer Wexton I'm supporting, the Republican candidate, and there's a 3rd candidate, and she's a woman. Now, she may legitimately be a candidate, but there'll be no ranking system, and she may have been put in the race to use as a foil to diminish the female vote for Jennifer. I don't know that, but this is how it would work. So, I support proportional representation. I support ranking the votes so that they more closely reflect the wishes of the people. And that Sarah Palin can't understand it means to me that she doesn't want a fair system. And that's true of anybody who does not want such a system. Now, it's more complicated and it probably takes longer to get results. I don't know if you remember that there was The Making of the President by Ted White was a book that came out in 1960 when Jack Kennedy was running for president. And I happened to glance at it in the last couple of days. And he had such respect for the rough and tough tumble of politics. And yet he could write beautifully about the higher values at issue in an election. And in the opening pages, which I glanced at again after these many years, Ted had spoken about how the transition was to be admired. And all I could think of is if Ted could see what we've done now, what would he write? And I think it would be obvious. I think he would be declaiming what's happened to our system of government and how we conduct it, and that we need more people of character and of patience and of competence and of goodwill and of empathy than we have right now. And it's disgraceful. So let's turn to a couple of examples. You may have heard that Lindsey Graham was subpoenaed to appear before the Georgia grand jury, and he lost his efforts to be immune because he has the speech and debate clause. He's a member of Congress. How dare you think he could be a witness? You know, over the years, we have prosecuted congressmen for all manner of stuff. I was involved in a prosecution of a guy named Dan Flood from Pennsylvania for stealing from the government. Well, actually trading favors, taking bribes for distributing his largesse as the chair of an important House committee. He's a Democrat. And yet Lindsey Graham, he's above this all, even though he did call the people in charge in Georgia in that election, as did Trump, as did others. So he wants to be treated better. Well, the 11th Circuit has paused his subpoena. Now, they haven't eliminated it, they haven't stopped it, but they're pushing back on it. Let me tell you, that doesn't happen with any other citizen. It just does not happen. And you don't need much to question somebody before a grand jury, but calling the people who are associated in a conversation with the President of the United States, who's telling them basically to change the vote to help him win, that's a whole different circumstance. You don't normally have that much for any witness. So, example one of the failure of our system to pause this subpoena involving our boy Graham. So this is pretty terrible. Now, there's another thing that annoys me. As much as I love Schiff made a statement that, I don't think we should release this affidavit. This affidavit about the search, we just, I don't know, we shouldn't release it. They're going to learn about the investigation. Stop the music. You're supposed to know about the investigation at some point, and you don't have to just stand there defenseless when somebody does something. Now, why do I want the release of the affidavit? Because I believe this affidavit is 100% true and shows great detail about what Trump did, and that it can be released without compromising any person who cooperated to make this search possible. And it's like we don't trust our own system. And here's another thought. My wife Holly and I had this question. So she says, people are anxious about what Trump's going to say. Well, damn it. We don't have a better argument? Are we afraid to argue with him? I've been in this situation on TV and in campaigns and issue-oriented debates, and I've been with other people. And we debate it. We fight about it. Trump doesn't have a leg to stand on, and yet we think he's some sort of magical demon who has to be, you can't fight him. They don't fight him. They have no nerves. They have no courage, no cojones. They don't have the power of belief in the rightness of their cause. They don't believe that the law has to be enforced for a democracy to exist. They are afraid of losing. Now, anybody who's ever done a sport knows something about the fact of, am I going to run, swim, fight as hard as I can and risk perhaps passing out because I can't finish the fight, the race, or whatever. But if you don't commit in that fashion to a very difficult undertaking, and that's what this is, taking on for the first time in history a president so criminal, so venal, so much an enemy of our system and of the people that we're not going to fight him, then our nation's over. If we don't have the character to do that. Schiff and other people, and I say this fondly of Schiff, want somebody else to do it. They want it to happen magically. Well, it doesn't. You have to step in the ring and risk a knockout. Nothing less. And here's the thing. They have enough evidence, I suspect, when we see the affidavit. They could charge him immediately with a criminal complaint for the sections they cite, whether or not the stuff is top secret. Are they going to do it? Not this Attorney General, no. No nerve, no fight. And the risk is enormous. It's our entire democracy. Not just this charge, all these charges. And why do we want to not make so much out of the search? Well, let's leave it up to the prosecutor in Georgia to do our work for you. That's what you see among politicians. It's always let somebody else do it. I can hear the nuns telling me as a kid that there's a notion. People always say, let George do it. And this was sort of drummed into us, and I don't know why the Dominican nuns would say these things. But when you say, let George do it, you're not doing it. When you're standing by, you're not doing it. It's not happening. And that's the trouble with America. We have these phony heroes, but no real heroes. They don't go in to win, and they conceal from us what's really going on. And in that respect, I'm referring to the disclosures about what Barr and Mueller. How many people thought Mueller was the real thing? I did. I'm not easily fooled. And he fooled us all. From the beginning, they never intended to indict the president, to charge him even, to say that he committed crimes. Nothing. So, there's that. And if you want some more bad news, Tribe has given a long interview in which he basically says that our Supreme Court is a failure and why. And I won't go into the detail. You know all of them. But among one of the things he cites is the fact that, we're in trouble when Thomas is citing Dred Scott in part approvingly for his position on stealing the rights of women and decrying and destroying Roe v. Wade. So that's kind of our challenge. I think what we have to do is have our BS meter on high alert. And you don't just have to be cynical to be suspicious of people who avoid doing what's necessary. And they're going to run out the clock with these arguments, stupid arguments, timing, delay, and stuff like that. When they have the punch, they have a grand jury that can't indict. Get to the finish line and charge. The feds, the state, whomever. And if you can't do that, then we all should just go to gardening or something else. So here I am on Sunday, and I am in my cathedral of trees, which are smarter and more reliable and more helpful and more soulful than anything these politicians do. Bye-bye.